Hello and welcome to Badger Talks Quick Picks, which bring exciting happenings, resources, and talent from your UW flagship campus to the people of Wisconsin and beyond. I'm Patrick Herb from Madison, Wisconsin, proud Badger alum, and currently the Assistant Athletic Director for Strategic Communications of the UW football program. I'm pleased to introduce today's guest, Justin Doherty, who will discuss his career in collegiate athletics at 3 different schools with an emphasis around his nearly 30 years at Wisconsin. Included in our conversation will be his experience working the 2002 Winter Olympic Games in Salt Lake City and a look ahead to the 2024 Paris Summer Olympic Games. Justin Doherty is the Senior Associate Athletic Director at UW Athletics. He's been working in collegiate athletics for 35 years, including the last 3 decades at UW, serving in roles that have largely revolved around communications, media relations, and sport administration. Please welcome Justin Doherty.
Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. Appreciate the opportunity here to share my story a little bit about my own history in college athletics, specifically my interaction with the Olympic Games in 2002, and chat a little bit about the Badgers and what they're going to be doing in the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. So I grew up in Detroit, proud Motown resident. Grew up rooting for the Tigers and the Red Wings and the Lions. My dad was a sports information director in the early part of his career. He basically a sports information director is the media relations or public relations person for a college athletics department. So he worked at the University of Detroit in the 1960s and got to know folks at around the Big Ten and in particular at Michigan State. And when I was a teenager, he knew my interests in sports and writing, and ended up taking me up to Michigan State to meet the folks up there in East Lansing. And I ended up being hired as a student assistant in the sports information office at Michigan State in 1984, the fall of 1984. I spent 5 years at MSU working with the hockey team and working football games and basketball games and just learning the profession. Once I left Michigan State, my first full-time job out of college was actually not in college athletics. It was I became the sports editor of a 5-day-a-week daily newspaper in Marshall, Michigan, which is about 40 miles south of Lansing. In that role, small operation, local newspaper. I wrote all the stories for the sports page. I laid the paper out. I took all my own photos. I developed film in a darkroom. Wrote all the cut lines for the photos, and just a really great learning experience for a young person. And discovered that I really love to write, love to interview people, love to cover games, love to be part of athletic events. And really, it was just a good starting point for me. About 8 months later, or 8 months after I was at the Marshall Chronicle, I moved on to an assistant sports information director position at Northern Michigan University up in Marquette in the UP. And again, it was a great initial position for a young person trying to break into the profession. And I really lucked into a fantastic situation there. The athletic director was also the hockey coach, a man named Rick Comley, and I was the media relations person for the hockey team there. And I say I lucked into a great situation because they ended up winning the national championship in Division One hockey. The championship game remains one of my great career memories. The team, we played Boston University in the championship game. Our team went back and forth, and we were up 7-4 with about 7 or 8 minutes left in the game. And Boston University came back, tied it. We went into overtime, and both teams hit the goalpost during the overtime, and we ended up getting to the third overtime, and one of our guys finally scored and set off a great celebration. And again, just a fantastic career memory. I spent one more year at Northern Michigan before moving on to the University of North Dakota, where I was the sports information director. I was at UND for about 2.5 years. One of my first memories there, I remember them telling me I needed a block heater for my car, and I didn't know what a block heater was. They said you're going to need it to start your car in the morning because of how cold it gets. And I said, well, I've lived in Detroit. I've lived in the Upper Peninsula. How cold can it be? But I found out how cold it can be. But as cold as the weather was, the people were just the opposite. They were warm and welcoming, and I really enjoyed my time at North Dakota. One thing I figured out there too was how much the rivalry between North Dakota and North Dakota State meant, especially in football. And you really got a sense for, it was as big to the people there as the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry is to the folks, back in the Big Ten. So had a good experience there, learned how to run my own office. And then in 1994, in December of 94, I came to Wisconsin. There was an associate sports information director, or SID, position open here in Madison, and I was primarily responsible for handling the media relations and communications um, for the men's basketball team, and as a number two person for football. And so for my first 7 years here, I was probably at 98 or 99% of every Badger men's basketball and Badger football game, home or away. Um, it was a great experience. I worked for a terrific person who became one of my good friends, Steve Malchow. He was the one who hired me here. Um, During that time, the football team won the Big Ten in 1998 and 1999. Went to the Rose Bowl, won the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day of those 2 seasons. Ron Dane set the NCAA rushing record, and we'll never will forget the day that he did that against Iowa in Camp Randall on a warm November day. Just an amazing atmosphere, and really later that year, the men's basketball team that I was working with closely went to the Final Four under Coach Dick Bennett, and made an incredible March Madness run. After being, roughly 500 in late February, they just went on a great run in March, like a classic March Madness story. And so that was just a tremendous experience, and again, a lifetime memory of really an underdog team achieving something that no one thought they were going to. I think from 2000, after that, part of my career, I became the sports information director, we changed the name of the office. Became Athletic Communications. I became the director of athletic communications at Wisconsin for the next 8 or so years. That was Barry Alvarez's last 5 or 6 years as the football coach, and the first few years of Brett Bielema's time. Again, just a great opportunity to work closely with Coach Alvarez and watch the amazing football program that he built here, and then also work with him starting in the early years of his time as the director of athletics at Wisconsin. Coach Alvarez brought me to our senior staff in the summer of 2009. It was the senior staff is basically our management team in the athletic department. It was an administrative role that I had to learn to grow into, and I will always appreciate the confidence he showed in me for putting me in that position. It at the time gave me oversight of most of our external units. So we're talking about communications and marketing and video and the website, social media, ticket office, Badger Sports Properties, a lot of our external facing areas, and I had oversight of those for quite a few years. I also was introduced to sport administration. So we have an administrator in the athletic department who has like day-to-day administrative oversight of our sports, and I've been really fortunate to work with so many good coaches and so many of our great student athletes here. I've had sport oversight of men's and women's track and cross country, men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball, and men's and women's golf. And so just again, a wide variety and just some great moments with the coaches and great relationships, excuse me, built with the coaches and with so many student athletes. As during that time as well, I served the sports information director's professional organization, which was called COSIDA, the College Sports Information Directors of America. I served that organization as the president, and I was honored to have been elected to the COSIDA Hall of Fame in 2013. I've always enjoyed writing, and I've written 4 books about Badger football, including one, again, about the day that Ron Dayne broke the rushing record. Just terrific opportunity to do something I love, to write, to tell stories about just a so it was a hugely significant event in the athletic department's history here at Wisconsin. I think working in college athletics is really about, at the end of the day, it's about the people that you work with. Again, I've been just so fortunate to work with so many great colleagues and student athletes and coaches. If I start trying to name people, I know I've named a few, but if I start trying to name more, I'll miss them. But one thing I do want to go back to is in 2002. I've been able to work at so many memorable events, the Rose Bowl. I've been to the Rose Bowl 8 times, been to the Final Four 3 times. That NCAA championship game at Northern Michigan remains a tremendous memory. I worked at the Major League Baseball All-Star game in Milwaukee years ago. But one of the most significant and memorable things I did or had the opportunity to do was work at the Winter Olympic Games in Salt Lake City in 2002. My job was I ran the media workroom at the long track speed skating venue. It was an amazing experience to service media from all over the world, and you really learn. We're so used to, or I was so used to how we do things here in Wisconsin and the Big Ten in the United States, and just to interact with people from around the world was a tremendous experience. We got there. We spent the first week. We were there for 3 weeks. We spent the first week training and learning the grounds and learning just the venues and who we'd be working with and what we'd be doing, and then the final 2 weeks was the actual games themselves. And it was a really unique time to be in an Olympic Games. It was 6 months after 9/11. And so the security at the venues and in Salt Lake City was very much heightened. And, obviously the country and the world were still certainly reeling from what had happened on 9/11. I remember one of the flags from the World Trade Center was flown inside at the opening ceremonies. I remember the Miracle on Ice hockey team were the ones that were able to light the Olympic flame, and again, just a amazing experience to be a small part of what's literally a world event, and you feel a connection, I think, with people from around the world. You're just seeing people from Canada and Germany and just Switzerland and in the Winter Olympics, the countries that specialize in a lot of the events in that particular game. So just excuse me, just a great experience. Which brings me actually to the Paris Olympics. So where we are currently, and we're about to start, and it's a special opportunity for so many people that are connected actually with Wisconsin athletics. We have 17 former Badger student athletes participating in Paris. They're representing 6 different countries. They're competing in swimming and diving. They're competing in rowing. They're competing in basketball, volleyball, track and field, soccer, and rugby. I think one of the best things about the Olympics is the stories behind the athletes. Some of our athletes are competing in their first Olympics. Some of our athletes are some of them competed in the Tokyo Games that were so affected by COVID, and so being in Paris is really going to give them the first maybe a first opportunity to compete in front of a big crowd and in what we would probably consider to be a more normalized environment. And then one of our former Badgers, Mohammed Ahmed, is a distance running Badger legend. He's representing his home country of Canada. He's competing in his 4th Olympics this year. So wide variety, they run the gamut of experience, but they will all treasure this particular experience in Paris. I guarantee you that. One of our Hall of Fame rowers that I would mention, Chris Thorsness, will be at the Paris Games, serving in a different kind of role. She'll be an arbitrator for the Court of Arbitration and for sport and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. That's a mouthful. The three-person panel presides over a wide range of possible disputes, from eligibility to doping to theft to assault. So, different ways to get involved in the Olympics. I even read the other day about a recent recent UW ComArts alum who's working as a production associate for NBC Sports. So, again, many ways to plug into the Olympics. I have a former student who texted me earlier today, was able to volunteer for Team USA and kind of combine a vacation over in France and watch the game. So I think, and especially in our world, that's right now, I think, full of a lot of tense situations. The Olympics can really bring people together from all over the world, and yes, they're competing, but when they're not competing, there's friendships are formed, and lifetime memories are formed, and once in a lifetime experiences are created for athletes. So the Olympics again is just really a once in a lifetime experience. And my own time, just the small role I played in 2002 in Salt Lake City was amazing, and I know that everybody in Paris will have a similar experience. I appreciate you letting me share some stories about my time at Wisconsin, my time in college athletics, and my perspective on the Olympics and on Wisconsin. Thank you.